Welcome to the Longest Turn Board Gaming Podcast. This is episode 3, Cabin Con. My name is Tyler.
Hello, this is Kevin.
This is Tyson.
Thanks for joining us. So instead of talking about a feature game in this episode, we wanted to talk about a couple of board game weekends or cabin cons that our board game group has done. We recently returned from a getaway in Winter Park, Colorado, but we wanted to start off by talking about our first cabin con in January of 2020, which happened right before the world shut down. Then we'll talk about our cabin con from just a few weeks ago. We wanted to share how we planned our board game weekends, along with some lessons learned and some fun experiences along the way. We'll also talk about the games that we played during our latest getaway. And of course, we'll talk about things that we're excited about that may or may not have to do with board games. Let's get it started.
All right, so as Tyler mentioned, we had Cabin Con 2020 right before the world exploded and we couldn't do anything. So we went up to Fairplay in Colorado to a cabin that Tyler found. We rented it. It was a big place that had a bunch of beds that we could kind of crash for 3 days and play games all weekend. It was a great place. The elevation was a little bit high. I think it was about 11,000 feet. So it was up there where the air was thin, and we had a few issues with that as we got there. I don't know, Tyler, if you want to.
It didn't help that we were snowed in and could not go back down to a little bit lower altitude to acclimate. Yeah,
so I had my SUV there. We got up there, no problems, and it wasn't snowing at that time. But shortly after, it was blizzard conditions. It was snowing sideways. It was kind of crazy, but we made it. First group got up there, and then there was some other guys that trailed a little bit later.
So that was Kevin, Tyson, myself, and Ben, I think, in the first group, and then Mark and Dan came up in the second group. I personally stayed up the night before, working until like 3 or 4 in the morning, which was a terrible idea before going up to that elevation.
And for context, we normally stand at about 5,200 plus feet.
Well, 5,280, right? Mile High City.
Well, we're not.
We're a little bit higher than that.
We're at about 6,000 feet where we are here.
About 60. Yeah, it's a little over 6,000.
Yeah,
right.
But so this was almost double that. Like, we almost went double the elevation we're used to.
So we got up there, the first group, after walking up and down the stairs a couple times, after staying up super late the night before, not really hydrated. I was drinking Monsters or soda to keep me up the night before. Man, it hit me hard.
The altitude, yeah.
I was struggling. I started having a massive headache. It was rough. I was even having a hard time breathing a little bit.
I had to call in Mark to bring you up some oxygen.
Yeah. So, I mean, they sell these cans of oxygen all around Colorado, especially in the mountains for people who struggle at altitude. And I'd never had this problem before living here, but man, it hit me like a ton of bricks. Mark and Dan got there late that night and, To the rescue. I started sucking on that can like a champ, and I was drinking a bottle of water every 15 minutes, and pretty soon I was taking a leak every 5 minutes. And
I wore a path to the bathroom because I said, I don't want to get sick. I was feeling a little lightheaded myself, but I was drinking so much water, and it was literally sometimes every 5 minutes. I'm like, sorry guys, got to take a break. And then I'd go to the bathroom. So, we'll talk about lessons learned a little bit, but I think one of the lessons learned was maybe don't go so high up in the mountains. There's lower locations that may work better, right?
So the whole point, I think, of covering Cabin Con 2020 Fairplay is because we did some things to maybe not be repeated. Like, for example, I think we ended up – how many games did we end up bringing up to Fairplay?
It was
somewhere over 50 games, right?
North of 50 easily.
Yeah. And there was 3 days that we were playing.
Yeah, we did coordinate a little bit before just to make sure we weren't doubling up, right? So we did some prep work before, but we didn't limit the number of games, which was a little bit of an issue, right?
Which was the whole point, I think, of what we were thinking of here. And in preparation for our 2021 Cabin Con, we wanted to make sure that we were bringing the right amount of games, that we were picking the right location, and there were a couple of other things I think that we learned from this one.
Well, and another thing about being so high up, we didn't really have good food options. I mean, we had Ben's lasagna, which was amazing.
Phenomenal.
But Dan also made a really good chicken potato casserole. But with the roads being as bad as they were from the snowstorm in January, we didn't really have the opportunity to go down into Fairplay, which is only at like 9,000 feet.
And even if we did have the ability to go down, when we did leave, I ended up.
I was going to bring that.
I ended up sliding off the road into a ditch. Ben immediately got out of the car and fell flat on his face. It was the slickest road one of the slickest roads I've ever been on. It was crazy.
Well, I went home with Mark and Dan. So I didn't go home with you guys like I'd come up with you guys, but I went home with Mark and Dan. And Mark had a giant SUV too. I think it was like an Expedition, like 4-wheel drive, everything that you would want. And we got to that same spot, I think, before you. We probably should have texted you at that point.
Oh, thanks for the heads up.
We almost slid off the road and almost went right into a tree. But Mark had some excellent, like, NASCAR level skill maneuverability that he made it so that we would fishtail back and forth until he got corrected, and then
I don't have those NASCAR skills. I went straight into the ditch.
Well, I loved there was a local guy sitting on his porch that watched us drive into the ditch and watched
like,
Ben fall on his face, and he came down and helped us out, right?
He did.
Your car was fairly new, right?
Yeah, it was a new car. I mean, I'm sure this guy was on his porch like, here's another idiot in the ditch. So he comes down and he's like, here, I could strap this cord thing around your tire and just yank you out. And I'm like, no. It was a new car. I didn't know, exactly how to get towed out of a ditch in it, but we figured it out. German engineered car. So we figured it out. There's this little thing on the bumper. You pop it off. You put in this little eye bolt thing, and then that's what's used to yank it, yourself out of a ditch. I didn't know that before, so I'm in the owner's manual trying to figure this out. Where is this thing? And it's by like the spare tire.
And I'm like standing there like, hurry up, Kevin. He's going to leave us if you don't figure it out.
I know. I got to figure this thing out. And he was a really nice guy. Yeah. He pulled us out, and we were on our way after that.
We did have to stop halfway down the highway because there was a clunk, 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 clunk,
That's right. I forgot about that.
There was a big ice block in your tire wheel.
They got wedged in there from the ditch, I think. Yeah. I'm like, did I do some serious damage to my car here? But it was just the ice. So
overall, I mean, I started feeling better in a day or so from the altitude sickness. But overall, it was an awesome experience. We had a great time. We had a massive table that we could have 2 games going at the same time. It was a great weekend. We had a lot of fun, and we were planning on doing another one in 2020, I think, near the end of the year, and then COVID hit, and it was like, well, forget this. but it was awesome. I think one of the other things that we learned from it was that 2 nights was not enough. We needed a 3rd night.
Yeah, I felt like we played so many good games, and like that one in particular, up in Fairplay, there were so many close games, and it was just awesome. And when we got to the end, I was like, man, I really wish we had more time here.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
And we remedied that in the next one.
Well, and we had so many good games to play. We had so many options that we were like, okay, what are we going to play? And we had to come up with some sort of mechanism to determine how to play. And we hadn't figured that out ahead of time.
And it was flawed. It was terribly flawed. So
to the point of being almost comical.
I don't know if you've probably seen The Office, and there's an episode where Michael and I believe Jim are just trying to decide how to award bonuses to the other employees in the office. And they're walking around the table and putting beans out on employees' pictures, trying to decide, and the rest of the office finds out and gets really upset about their method of awarding bonuses, right? But that's how we were picking our games. We would put a bunch of games out on the table, and then we walk around and put coins or pennies or something on each one of them, and then we'd decide. It was terrible.
Could have been better with beans, maybe.
It could have been.
It took like 10 to 15 minutes to select a single game.
Yeah, it was terrible.
It was the game within the game.
It was.
Right?
So we remedied that for 2021.
So I think we've talked about some of the lessons learned. So should we kind of transition over to Winter Park and how we kind of fix some of these things?
Sure.
So yeah, like Kevin was saying, let's get into Winter Park 2021, our board game Cabin Con weekend. Part of the reason why we wanted to bring this up and do an episode about this is because in case anybody else out there is trying to plan a board game weekend, Cabin Con type of experience, hopefully you can learn from our mistakes as we learned from our Fairplay mistakes. We still had some mistakes, I think, from this Winter Park one, but for the most part, I think it was a lot better. And part of that was we got together ahead of time as a group to do some planning on how this was going to all go down. And part of that entailed having Mark, our good friend, do some masterful barbecuing, which he made a brisket,
It was one of the best briskets I've ever had. It was amazing.
He'll deny it, but he's a freaking pitmaster. Like
and just a little background on Mark. He grew up in Texas. He knows good barbecue. He wasn't content with just a normal smoker. He had to go get I don't know how many gallons his propane tank was, right? But he got a propane tank and he converted it into his own smoker. That's the kind of barbecue or smoker Mark is.
He did all the welding himself. I mean, this thing is massive. And
he's never going to be able to move it, but it is awesome.
Yeah.
And it works. That's the key.
He's got that thing dialed in perfectly, right? Yeah. And you get Mark talking to Mark about barbecue.
Didn't he say
you'll be there for a while because he knows a lot about barbecue?
Yeah, did he say he stayed up the night? He basically slept next to the smoker and was checking on it. He's told me
when he does, he has a cot out there and he's feeding the fire and making sure that the temperature's right. And I don't know if he did it this time or not. But
he said he had done it. I heard him say he that was what he was doing, and so he didn't get nearly as much sleep as he normally would. But man, it was. You said it was one of the best. It was, I think, the best brisket I've ever had.
You touched it and it fell apart. I mean, it was amazing. It was perfect.
So if you're planning a board game weekend and you have a pitmaster type of level barbecue friend, I highly encourage that you use them
or contact Mark. I don't know.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. See if he is available for catering.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But so we got together. Mark made this brisket. We all ate and sat down and started chatting about what's this weekend going to look like. And I'll give more credit where credit's due. Tyler put ahead of time a giant document, an Excel document full of different games that everybody could potentially bring. And we all participated and added games that we thought, we might want there.
I used a site that's probably familiar to some people called PubMeeple. So PubMeeple has this really cool ranking system that allows you to pretty much rank anything, but specifically it allows you to rank board games. And it searches and finds those games on BGG. I believe you can also import them, but you can use it to rank your favorite games in your collection. You can use it to rank, what games your board game group wants to play next. So for our latest Cabin Con, we created a list of over 60 games. And after we had stuffed ourselves full of brisket, we all sat down and started going through the list and using the PubMeeple ranker to rank those games. And we were all doing this at the same time. It presents 2 games to you and you pick which one you want to play more. And then it'll go on to another comparison. Well, eventually you make enough comparisons that the application determines what your ranked order is. And then not only that, but if it's a shared list like we were using, it takes each person's rankings, each ranked list, and aggregates them and gives you the overall rankings. So we had, based on each person's rankings, we had an aggregate ranking or a total ranking, which is really cool because then we knew the top games that everybody wanted to play based on rankings. We also, in addition to the top 25 that we picked that we would bring, we let everybody select one game that didn't make the top 25 that they could also bring. And then we figured out based off of that list who was bringing what. The link, and we'll post this in the show notes, but it's rankingengine.pubmeeple.com.
And I'd used this before as well. Like I've used it to rank my own games and my own collections just to see kind of what I like, right?
Yeah.
And you could do it for that too. But I thought it was a genius use of the ranking system so that we could all kind of get together. And it really worked. There were a couple of games that were like in 26 through 30 that I was like, those were some of my favorite games.
You know, the ranking engine spoke, right?
Exactly. So it made a decision.
They missed and it made the decision for us, right? Which was kind of cool. And it was a fair way to do it. And like Tyler mentioned, if your game didn't make the cut in the top 25, you had one mulligan, right? And we were allowed to bring that game as one of the games we brought, which was used at the at our Cabin Con.
Yeah, like I think Dan,
his number one game,
and maybe this is an issue with the aggregate rankings, but everybody else ranked Terraforming Mars a little low, and it didn't make the cut. And that was the game that he picked to bring, I believe, right?
Well,
that was the game.
And Mark as well. I think
Memoir
44 didn't make the cut, and that was his number one game. And he picked that one to bring. And
it was interesting too. There were a number of games that we play so much on Board Game Arena that they slid down as well and didn't make the cut, like Clans and Teo and Res Arcana.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think the whole fact that Mark's number one and Dan's number one didn't make it, the fact that they got that mulligan to bring it was a huge deal because they ended up playing it. And I think they would say that those game experiences during the weekend were some of their favorites because they got to choose to play them as well. So not only did we have this ranking ahead of time of how to do it, we had established a method by which we could choose the games while we were there.
So we're basically playing 2-3 player games at a time. So I created a list that alternates, goes through 3 pairs of us, and then mixes up the pairs and goes through those 3 different pairs again, and created a list of who's picking what in what order. And so all the pairings were mixed up. So, Kevin wasn't always picking with Tyson and I wasn't always picking with Ben, right? So there was opportunity for everyone to play games that they specifically wanted to play.
And yeah, you weren't head to head with the same person every time. So it's not like, so there was a couple of instances in which games got picked that I wanted to play a game while I was supposed to be choosing the other game. And I was like, I wanted to play that. And I didn't necessarily get the opportunity. But the great thing was the next time I got to pick, I could potentially choose that game. And I would know for sure that the person who picked it before wasn't picking with me. So it ended up working out, I think, really well.
Yeah, I think it worked out well too. I had a similar experience that there were a few games that I'm like, God, I wish I could have been involved in that.
Yep.
The one that comes to mind is the game of Ankh that you guys were playing. I would love to have been in that one. I don't remember what game I was playing while you guys were playing that one, but I'm pretty sure it didn't rank as high as Ankh in my book. But, I still had a great time, and I think it was a great method. And like we've talked about, if you really wanted a game played over that weekend, you're going to get it played because you had multiple times to choose which game you wanted to get played. So it was a cool method.
So we did 3 nights, and it I think was the perfect amount of time. By the time we left, I was a little board gamed out.
We were getting a little silly that last night. I think everybody's brains were fried.
Yeah, I didn't want to look at a board game for like 4 or 5 days. I don't know that I've still played a board game on table yet, but
I haven't played one on table since, but I've played a number BGA, on BGA or Yukata or whatever. But yeah, no, it's a feat though that for us to be like, I don't need to play a board game for a week or two. Like, we're usually playing every week or at least close to every week. So it was,
I'm getting the itch though. I think
totally.
We definitely need to get something to the table, right?
So we did play 25 different games. 8 of those were fillers, and we had 35 total plays, and 12 of those were filler plays. And we probably could have got a few more plays in, but we had some slow mornings after some rough nights of sleep for some people. So we could jump into some of the lessons learned from this Cabin Con. But overall, I mean, the experience was awesome. Ben made us lasagna again, which, you know, it fed us for 2 meals. We were
And
talking about going out. He did breakfast burritos.
So another thing to plan for is make sure you have a Ben in your group that will cook you food. Right?
Absolutely, yeah.
It worked out great.
And we talked about going out and getting food or dinner somewhere. There's plenty of options up in Winter Park, but we had amazing lasagna. And Mark made some carrot cake, and it was amazing. And, you know, he did some brats one night too. And I mean, just, it was...
That carrot cake, I think it weighed 10, 15 pounds. It was the most dense carrot cake. I don't know how much butter he put in there, but whatever he did, it was awesome.
It was delicious.
Similar to the brisket, it was the right thing to do.
Yeah, whatever he did was the right thing, right? Yeah, it was awesome. So the food, no complaints about the food. We kind of fended for ourselves in the lunches and coordinated the dinners, what we were planning on. I think it worked great.
One of the things that we could have done a little bit better was played more games that we knew. I think we could have gotten more plays in. We spent a little too much time in the rule books for a few games, and spent too much time doing teaching a little bit. So that cut into some of the plays that we missed out on, I think.
And I think we had every intention to get rules read and to get prepared for games before.
Yeah.
But you know,
life happens, right?
Life happens. Everybody got busy and it just didn't quite happen. So it wasn't quite as smooth as I think we wanted it to be. And once I got up there, I really just wanted to play games. I didn't want to read rules to games.
Right.
Right. And I think we did a little bit more of that than we all wanted to do.
Yeah, I brought a book to read and rule books to read, and like...
You brought a book to read?
Yeah. I brought some Kurt Vonnegut, and I tried to read one page. I got about 3 sentences in and just was like, let's play a game. Because why am I playing a game?
Right. I just thought of something. You're talking about books. I remember when we were driving up to 2020 Fairplay, the whole time Tyson and Ben and I were talking about Brandon Sanderson books like Mistborn, Stormlight Archive, and other fantasy books, right? And Kevin's just driving.
I'm like, what is this, book club? I mean,
He was the chauffeur.
So this year, Kevin, you know, in the past year and a half, Kevin had done some Sanderson books. So we got to talk a little bit. And Kevin joked, but hey, I feel like we should, when we were climbing the pass, we were joking about.
I made it. I'm in the group now.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm in the book club. I've read some Sanderson now, right?
Which I don't know how high that pass is. It's like, what, 13,000 feet maybe?
Oh, it's up there.
It's 12, 13, somewhere in
so
there.
you go up and then drop back down into Winter Park. And I was feeling it a little bit.
Which the difference, so between Fairplay and Winter Park, the difference was a few thousand feet. Because I think Fairplay was 11,000 plus, and then Winter Park was...
It's about 9 something.
Oh, I was thinking it was 8 even. Okay.
Maybe it is. It's around that area.
But it was enough that it wasn't nearly as bad as
the place that we were staying, another Airbnb, was a very vertical condo with many sets of stairs. And by the time we got done unloading the car, I was like, okay, I need to start drinking some water. I need to get some food.
Head between the legs.
But it only, like, I had a headache for a few hours.
I had Mark on a speed dial, making sure.
I had a can of oxygen. I learned my lesson.
Maybe we need to rethink our locations and go to like a sea level,
beach. Yeah,
sunny beach. Yeah, play games on the beach.
I mean,
like that.
we could. Yeah, sure.
I'd be up for that.
Death Valley. That's.
I mean, it could be a little hot, but that's fine.
Yeah,
whatever.
Yeah, but overall, the whole concept, I think, of bringing games that the group knows more, so we don't have to spend as much time learning, was kind of a big one. Because I noticed as I went through the weekend, the longer we went, the less I wanted to learn new games.
Yep, right.
Like, I just wanted to play games that I could dive into, because we would spend a significant amount of time learning or teaching the game. And part of the problem with that, I think, was usually 2 of the people at the table knew the game while one person didn't when you were teaching a new game. And that just meant that it was kind of weird. And there were instances, I think, in which people wanted to play the same game multiple times. And I think Hansa Teutonica is the best example of that. It got played 3 times, I think.
It was twice.
Or okay, 2 times.
Yeah.
And both of those times there was one new player to play it and had to be taught it each time. So that was kind of, for those who were playing it who had already learned it, hearing the rules teach multiple times was less awesome.
Yeah, I think I went and
you bailed.
I bailed while you
Hansa
were teaching
rules
Dan
teach.
Hansa, because I was like, man, I heard these rules yesterday when we played with Tyson. So
I have taught that game so many times.
I mean, you have it down.
I mean, yeah, and I've played that game quite a bit.
I mean, yeah, it's pretty cut and dry.
Oh, we talked about this before on the podcast. It is the driest Euro, and that guy on the box cover. Holy cow.
Which I finally got to play because...
Yeah, what did you think about that one?
I really liked that one.
You won that game, didn't you?
I won it, but that may have played why I really liked it.
In both of those games, I went last to start, and I feel like you're at a negative... I mean, you have a deficit right off the bat because you're not getting... I mean... We don't need to talk about it, but
I mean, I agree with you. There's a few flaws to that.
To be
game.
fair, though, I had no idea what I was doing on my first turn. So
but anybody who increases the number of actions that they can take right at the beginning of the game has an advantage, and you can't do that if you're the third person.
You have to have
third player
at least one extra action. I mean, I've won with 3 actions, but if you get shut out of that first extra action, you're in a bad spot.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was one of the games that was played multiple times. And there was a few other ones. But those plays of Hansa Teutonica were great for me, even though I didn't win either of the games. It was something comfortable for me that I didn't have to learn, right? I was teaching, but, it goes to the point of playing games that you're familiar with may be a better way to go.
Yeah,
I think conversely, though, there were games that I hadn't played before that I learned, that I played multiple times. And getting to play them and even teach the ones, because I taught a couple of games that I hadn't played yet a couple of times, and I learned the games better, and I was like, oh, I know how to teach this better now after having played it, and so my next teach was even better. And so there was some advantages to that, but I think that was the exception by far as opposed to it being the rule.
Yeah, and I don't think not learning any new games is the way to go, because I did enjoy learning the new games. It's just maybe limiting that a little bit would be,
I will say, that
what we should do in the future type of thing.
I'm glad that we chose the game that we learned first was on Mars, and we didn't attempt to learn that at any other point in the weekend.
We'll get into that.
We'll get into that. Oof. A little foreshadowing there, but...
Speaking of foreshadowing, though, I want to come back to something that Tyler was alluding to earlier about making sure that the room considerations were thought of ahead of time, because that was something we didn't do as well this time.
We did it better in Fairplay, for sure.
Agreed. We assigned rooms randomly in Fairplay, and people got random rooms, and it worked out pretty well. Dan ended up having his own private master room in Fairplay, and
I was in the loft, and
then I ended up sharing with Ben in Fairplay.
And I think I had my own room there.
But that was one thing that we couldn't predict is the quality of the rooms and the quality of the beds. And
my bed was like a taco in Winter Park. It's like everything funneled towards the middle. It was the creaky. I don't know how they made that thing. It was probably held together by duct tape and chewing gum, because I don't know. It was just squeaking like crazy. So you can't prepare for that. You don't know what you're going to get.
That was one of the things that contributed to the late starts some days and things like that.
Yeah, we didn't randomize the rooms, so it was just kind of first come, first serve, right?
Right.
And we got there and we're like, what room do you want? I don't know. What room you gonna want? And then finally people are like, I'm just taking this room.
I attempted to organize it 3 times because I was like, I don't want to share this time. I don't want to get stuck sharing again because I got it last time. So can we find a way to organize this? And I ended up not sharing, but I shared on the last night we had there because there were certain auditory
concerns
that
by one sleeper
in a specific room that was being shared by another sleeper, and Yeah, so it was just really disrupted sleep.
It was better to be away from that person, right? So, I mean, something to consider for future planning. You know, there may be some considerations of people who it may be better to have their own room type of thing.
Ideally,
which is just fine, right?
Ideally, we'd all have our own rooms, but then that bumps up the cost just a little bit, right?
Right.
So,
And really, you're there to play games as long as you have a place to sleep that's semi comfortable.
Yeah, I ended up taking a mattress off of a bunk bed and threw it on the ground and slept perfectly comfortably. Like, it didn't really matter ultimately where I slept. It was more about that I got to sleep and could actually sleep enough that I could play some more games. That was my biggest concern.
So I think, you know, to make it fair, just to have some sort of randomizer when you get there is taking into account people that may have special considerations, obviously, but then just randomizing who goes where just to make it fair. You know, as we go from year to year doing this, maybe we adjust that. Like, hey, I was in the big room last time. I'll double up this time. Right. Maybe that's something we consider going forward, right? But you know.
Gen Con does like a point system for publishers. The more you get more points for having been there longer or whatever, and you could do some.
How do you get points?
At Gen Con or
at our Cabin Con?
If you get the master room, you
by
get
winning
points,
games,
and then the more games you win,
the more food you cook, the more games you win.
Absolutely.
Hey, you know, I'm probably okay giving Ben a nice room.
Gas mileage should be factored in.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
All these things. Point systems.
I get points for that. Driving into a ditch loses you points.
Yeah, that shaved a couple hours off an hour off our morning, right?
Yeah, it was about an hour.
Which, not a big deal.
You know.
It's a funny story now.
It is.
And your car, I mean, there was no damage.
There's no damage at all.
Which allows it to be funny, right?
Yeah. I remember I contacted my wife and said I drove into a ditch, and she said, the first thing she said was, "How's your car?" Because it was new. It was pretty new at that time, right? She didn't say. She knew I was fine. She didn't, I guess, care about anybody else in the car. But
yeah, I mean, that's fair.
So, do we have any more lessons learned from 2021?
There's one thing. As part of the ranking engine, we ranked 6-player games.
We did
that we would want to play together, because our thought was, we're up there, 6 of us. We're probably going to play at least one game together, right? Turns out, I guess we didn't want to do that.
We did a few fillers, but we didn't do the 3 that we brought, right?
Right. So we had, I think, Power Grid,
Scythe,
Coloma, and Scythe that were the 6-player games that we were thinking. But I mean, it didn't quite work out for this one. I don't think it was a bad idea at all. And those games would have been fun if we would have played together.
But I think the lesson that I learned out of that was the hope was we would all play together, and we were doing that anyway. We just were playing together in different rotations. Everybody played with everybody.
Right.
And then, like Tyler said, we played filler games, smaller, lighter games that were quicker with the entire group. And I liked that because it was like, oh yeah, this is more like fun and raucous, and like you can have that more social interaction that maybe we wanted at that point in time, as opposed to some of those deeper, thinkier games that we got to play.
Yeah. So
I think, that was one of those things. If we would have gotten up a little earlier, we had a couple business calls, which is fine. That happens, right? Mark went and ran up a mountain like 11 miles or 9 miles, like, because he's ridiculous.
8 or 9 miles?
Yeah, something like that.
And Mark's like, hey, look at that mountain. I'm going to run up it.
Yeah. I think some of those late starts, at least for me personally, I kind of just wanted to get into separate games that would play a little quicker than 6-player games. So.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's a bad idea. And I mean, if we do it next time,
we'd still want to do it, right?
Yeah, I think we still want to do it. It's just something for this particular Cabin Con. Didn't quite work out for us, but
altogether, though, I think that the planning, the efforts, everything we did ahead of time made this experience even better than the last one. And I felt like the Fairplay was a great experience. Winter Park was an even greater experience altogether, I think.
Yep, yeah, absolutely.
I'm excited for the next one.
Yeah.
When we going?
We've talked a little bit about going to Origins. So
yeah,
that is kind of
replace the Cabin Con.
Well, at least the semi-annual CabinCon, right?
I think we still do it once a year.
I think we should shoot for right after Halloween. I thought that worked out great because it's in between the seasons. It's before the ski season starts, and it gets really crowded up in the mountains. So
yeah, and I'd do Winter Park again, like in a heartbeat. I thought that was a great location.
That was awesome.
Maybe a different place with less squeaky beds.
Yes, please.
Lessons learned.
Other than the beds, though, I mean, I thought that place was great. We had 2 huge tables to play on. One was up in the kitchen area, and one was down in kind of the family room area, and
that one was big enough you could actually have 2 games going on. We never did that.
We did. We did.
We did. That's right. Yeah.
The last night we
played Paris, and you guys played Tyrants of the Underdark. Yeah, yeah. It was awesome. I mean, the setup for gaming was awesome. It was great.
Yeah, it was perfect.
So that concludes our lessons learned from our 2021 CabinCon. Now let's go into our top 5 favorite moments of CabinCon.
Number 5. All right, so I'll start off with my number 5, and that is our play of On Mars. So I think we have a little bit to say about this one. So Tyson, Tyler, and I, we were able to get off a little bit earlier than the other guys coming up. And we got up to Winter Park, I think around 11:30, right? That was check-in. And our plan was to get a play of On Mars in before everybody else joined us around 6:30, I think is when they made it up there.
Well, and I think the hope was also so that we weren't the only ones who had wanted to play On Mars that weekend, but the hope was now we have solidified the rules. Let's play this later.
Yeah, and then we could play it again, right? Yeah. So Tyler's the only one that had played before. He was a little, I guess you would say, rusty on the rules.
I mean, it was 7 or 8 months ago that I played a 2-player game with my son Logan, and I'm fairly certain that we played 50% of the rules wrong.
And after playing the game once, that doesn't surprise me, right? So Tyler was setting up the game, refreshing himself on the rules a little bit. Tyson and I found a YouTube video that was a rules rundown that we thought it was the quicker one, but it turns out it was a 2-parter, and it ended up
being
like
a bait and switch on us.
Yeah, and it was a 2-parter. It was like 45 minutes long, right, to go through the rules. So we got through that, got the game set up, started playing the game.
I had printed out some player aids because I knew it was going to be a beast.
Right. And those were very helpful.
5 pages of player aid.
It wasn't like, look at this and just glance at it and know what you're doing. It's like, turn to page 16. It was only 5 pages, but
It might be the most complex Vital Lacerda game, right?
Yeah, it was really complex. And we're like, okay, we're still a little bit rusty. We don't know the rules, but we're just going to start playing and then look them up as we go and kind of figured the game out that way. It ended up being a game that lasted about 6 hours, I think. We were playing it solid for around 6 hours. We joked early on in the game, it's like, we're going to be playing this when the other guys come get here. Yeah. And we're like, no, there's no way that's going to happen. Sure enough, they showed up. We were like on our final rounds or something like that.
Yeah, we were finishing up.
It worked out that we finished right about that when they had showed up and finished getting unpacked and things like that.
But it was a fun experience. It was cool. It was the first Lacerda game that I had played. I hadn't played anything before. I knew it was a heavy game going into it, and it really was. But the mechanics were fun. Going into orbit, going down to the colony, and that whole dynamic of going back and forth. And when you do that was just really cool. Once you kind of got your head around the rules, which there's a lot of rules, it was just a fun experience, right?
Yeah, and we got progressively better, not having to look up a rule every time we took an action. Right?
I think the first hour consisted of maybe 2 turns, like 2 full turns from everybody.
And we were cheering when we got done with the first round. Right. We're like, hey, we did it.
Tyson and Kevin had the hard or the rules in front of them, and I was searching in the rules on my computer, so we were at least doubling our efforts there.
But I think, like, for me, it was a cool experience. It was definitely a long game. We've talked about getting it to the table again, just so all of that time invested doesn't go to waste, and we definitely need to do that. But it was just fun, and I enjoyed it. It was cool. It was a great way to start, I think, our CabinCon experience, and that's one of the reasons why I thought it was a good top 5 for me.
I also liked that I came away with the victory by 1 point or
You guys tied, right? Or was it like and
was it a tie?
Did it come back to a tiebreaker? Or I can't remember. I was way behind, so it wasn't.
It was a close finish.
It was very close,
and I was slightly disappointed that it was so
although
close.
With a game that complex, there were a few mulligans, and I'm sure there were a few errant plays.
I mean, I probably lost 10, 15 points because I really should have been the winner.
Yeah,
right. That's what I was thinking too.
Clearly should have been the winner.
If you're saying 10 to 15, anyway.
Right. But anyway, that is my number 5.
My number 5 is also on Mars, coincidentally. It was for the same reasons. We don't have to belabor it. I loved the experience.
So my number 5 was playing Orleans again and Rajas of the Ganges. And these were 2 of those games that got multiple plays. I think Orleans got 2 plays and Rajas got 3. And both of those games are games that I love and that I haven't played for a super long time. I mentioned in episode 2, Orleans is a game that I love the most that has gone the longest without me playing it. So I loved getting those to the table. I was involved in 2 of the Rajas games and both of the Orleans games, and they were just awesome games. And we've since started playing Rajas of the Ganges on a yukata. And in our most recent game, we've added in some of the extra modules. I don't think I'll ever play Rajas without those extra modules. And then I also have 2 Rajas goodie boxes that I'm excited to dive into too, to add a little bit more to the game. And
I still don't know what those modules are doing.
I figured it out.
Oh, you did?
I did. But I'm sad because I also like the modules, but I'm concerned because when I do a dice action with a 2-value die, it then allows me to take one of those module pieces, but it replaces one of my favorite things about the 2 action is I get an immediate bonus. I don't get the immediate bonus.
I felt ripped off.
I'm like, what immediate bonus don't you get?
I'm like putting it on the board.
Right.
I haven't done the 2 action. Oh, yeah. Yeah, but you get to cover up empty spaces or put them where it's most beneficial.
It's just not as immediately gratifying, and we know due to my age that all I want is immediate gratification.
Younger generation really wants that. Yeah, that makes sense.
I want cake now.
I want cake now. Yeah.
So that was my number 5, just getting Orleans and Rajas of the Ganges to the table. Just had a blast. Those were some of my favorite plays of the weekend. So
yeah, I played both of those. I hadn't played Orleans for a long time, and that was a lot of fun. And it didn't hurt that Dan had the upgraded bits.
Oh yeah, those were awesome
from the Geek Store, right? The Geek Up bits, they're awesome.
Unfortunately, they're sold out right now, and I don't think they're going to be in stock until spring. So
they're pricey, but I think they're worth it for any bag builder. I mean, if you're going to get them for quacks, you're going to be out quite a bit of money.
$100 with the expansion ones, but
they're really cool and really high quality. So that was fun.
Yeah,
that was really
I think
fun.
the Orleans ones are $35, which.
If you're going to play it as much as you're going to play Orleans, I think it's worth it. For me, I really like Orleans. And when you had mentioned it in episode 2, I had the same exact feeling of it's one I haven't played in a long time and I would love to get it played. So the fact that it got brought for the board game weekend and I got to play it, it was fantastic. And it was just that game that we played as well was very close as well. And it was a really satisfying experience. We played with some new modules I hadn't played with before. The Citizen board that we used was a different one that I hadn't used before, and I really enjoyed that.
Yep, that was awesome. It was a lot of fun. That was my number 5.
Number 4. So my number 4, it was the third night. We were all a little bit tired, very tired. Some of the guys jumped in the hot tub. I wasn't feeling in the hot tub mood that night, and neither was Ben or Tyson. So we pulled out a little filler game called Llama. So Llama, it's a Reiner Knizia game. It's a very, very simple game. I don't think you'd played it, Tyson, right?
No, I'd played it.
Oh, you played it? It was Ben. It was Ben.
Ben had yet to play it.
Ben had yet to play. That's right. Ben had yet to play it. Did a quick rules rundown, which took about 35 seconds. got the game started, and for whatever reason, it was so much fun, right? We were doing crazy, weird voices the whole time. There was probably the sleep deprivation, but
making fun of each other.
Making fun of each other. It was awesome. So we played 3 rounds of that. For some crazy reason, Tyson won all 3 rounds. Ben had 1 round that he played that we mathed it out, and like the highest score possible in one game of that is like 68 or something. And he got 62. Right.
Wow,
he played
terrible.
He played horribly, and we made fun of him for that, but it was funny. He was laughing at himself, and it was just a really fun game.
It didn't matter what the points were, what the scores was.
Who cares,
it was the whole experience that was just super enjoyable, and
we were laughing.
Yeah.
So I came back in from the hot tub, and that was probably 11:30 at night, and it was probably the loudest our condo got the whole weekend.
Yeah.
We were having trouble controlling the volume of our voices.
Yeah.
Well, things just got crazier and crazier because it was just the same type of thing. I was always doing really well, and Ben was always doing really poorly. And it was just
he would get a hand of cards he couldn't do anything with. He's like, well, drawing a card, and then Tyson's like, I'm out. I'm like, what?
And we would joke about the fact that in Llama, there's not a whole ton of decision making.
I mean, there's more than there is in Monster Crunch.
Monster Crunch has like 6 decisions. Llama has 3.5.
Yeah.
Whatever, Kevin.
I'd have to agree that, though, Llama, really, there wasn't a whole ton of decisions to make, but somehow it generated this experience. And it's done this in times past, but not quite as well as this time, I don't think. But like every time I've played Llama, I've had an experience that it's just fun, and it's silly fun, and it doesn't have to be anything like serious. And that was, I think, what it did really well, especially after having played a ton of heavier games that day and wanting to something light and fun, but we didn't want to go to bed quite yet. Yeah,
I've thought about Llama before, and I'm like, this game should not be fun. Right?
Yeah.
It shouldn't be as fun as it is.
No.
But like every time I play it, it's a good time. And a lot, I mean, I've played with my family a lot, and we've been loud playing that game as well. Not quite to that extent, I'm sure, but why is that game so fun? It just is.
It is not a game that you want to play on Board Game Arena. I recently finished with my nephew and my son a 2-ish plus month long game of Llama that was just brutally painful. And, you don't have the laughs and experience of playing it on the table.
It's that social game.
There are some games
it's social for sure.
digitally should not be played. Skull.
Yep.
Terrible.
Yeah. Oh,
terrible.
Gosh. Why was that even developed? Who did that?
Yeah. I mean, great for creating the opportunity.
It's a beautiful implementation,
Oh,
actually.
Yeah.
It takes the whole reading
Any
table.
bluffing game where you're taking your turn once a day.
well, and you can't see the people's faces and their interactions
unless you're like on Discord and you have the video on or something. But it's like, you're not doing that.
Yeah.
I just suppose you could absolutely do that, and I could see that being a good time, particularly during the pandemic. I could see somebody doing something like that.
We did that a few times where we had the cameras on Discord. Still lost something.
Yeah.
But Yep. So that's my number 4, Llama.
So my number 4 has already been talked about. It is Orleans. And for all the same reasons that Tyler brought up, this was a really great experience for me. It was the experience itself of getting a game that I hadn't played for a long time, one that I remember very fondly and appreciating, and then playing it and having the confirmation that, this is a game that I loved for good reason, and it holds till now, even after having not played it in so long, getting it back to the table was just such a rewarding and gratifying experience. And something I want to do more of is ensure that I'm playing games that I've loved in the past, and making sure that I loved them for good reasons. I like that. So that's my number 4, Orleans.
All right, so my number 4 is the play of Ankh, Gods of Egypt, that we got in, that Kevin mentioned earlier, and that was Tyson, Mark, and I. So one of the criticisms we had of Ankh was unlocking your Ankh power, and that's how you gain guardians. And sometimes in some of our plays, people later in turn order don't necessarily get the chance to unlock or to gain some of the guardians or any guardians at all if that's how it plays out. So one thing that I loved about this play of Ankh was that we played with the scenario that changed how the guardians were awarded. There were events that were set out when you reached them that before you carried out the rest of the event, you bid followers blindly for the guardians. So everybody would hold out their hands and you'd be bidding on the lowest guardian level or the lowest leveled guardian available.
And there's only one of that type.
There was only one of that type, but there was two on each level.
Oh yeah.
Right. Which was awesome. I thought that was really cool because you're not just playing with 3 guardians, you're now playing with 6, which was really cool. So you hold out your closed hand with followers and then you all reveal at the same time, and whoever bid the most loses their followers but gained the guardian. So there was plenty of opportunity for everybody to get a guardian.
And it was just how much you wanted it, really.
Yes. And there were a couple that I just bid absolutely nothing because I had no intention or desire to get them.
And it sounds like, I didn't play this time, but it sounds like you can plan, I'm going to get followers so that I have the followers to hopefully get this guardian.
And so long as you have more guardians than anybody else at the table, because that's public knowledge, you can guarantee that you're going to get it if you want.
So,
sorry, it did affect some of my other decisions related to how I was using my followers, right? Like, I can't do that because I need to summon followers because I know there's about to be a bid for a guardian that I want, right? So,
but they're only available through the first 6 monument events.
Yep.
So the first 3 are unlocked before the first conflict, I believe, and the next 3 are unlocked before the second conflict event.
So you're not gaining control of monuments on those first?
No, you still do
it's
that.
in addition to gaining control.
But the bidding for the guardian happens first initially when that event's triggered.
So this could be applied to any scenario then.
I couldn't see a reason why.
Or is it?
That's what we were thinking. But I know how you feel about house rules.
my soul dies a little bit each time. But after hearing you guys talk about this, it may be, I can't believe I'm saying this, an exception for me. That maybe
before you commit to that,
right,
and corrupting part of your heart.
Try the actual scenario that allows.
Okay, we got to play this, right?
Yeah. No, I think we should play a different scenario to test out.
Whoa.
Hey, adding in this guardian bidding.
Does it break the game?
Does it break other scenarios, right? But I don't think it will. I can't see how it would.
Either.
Because the scenarios are specific. Usually they have a rule or something or mechanism that's specific to that scenario.
But it's not going to change the scenarios any more than adding the Pharaoh expansion in.
Right.
Is going to, right?
Yeah, that's true. Interesting. Yeah. I'd like to try it out.
I really enjoyed that whole experience too. And same thing. I think it's one I want to try outside of that scenario and see how it works, because I think it could be a lot of fun in any scenario.
Yep. So that was my number 4 on Gods of Egypt, and specifically bidding for the Guardians. That was awesome.
Number 3. All right. So my number 3, I was able to get a game off of my shelf of shame, which anytime I can do that is I love. And this game was Lorenzo il Magnifico. I was playing this with Dan and Ben. So this game, it's an engine building game. And it's also a dice game. So you're buying cards, you're putting them out on your board, and then you're running your engine with these dice. Very simplistic, rules explanation there, but that's essentially what you're doing. Generally, rolls in the game, when you roll the dice, it's better to get high rolls. So if you roll all 6s, everybody's happy around the table. If you roll, 5s and 6s, even 4s, those dice, you can do more with those dice, and you're happy when you get those rolls. Ben was up. He was going to do the roll for this round. And I turned to Ben and I said, "Hey, Ben, don't roll 3 ones, whatever you do. 2 seconds later, Ben rolls. We look at the dice and it's 3 ones. So we're like, what the heck? So the whole table, we're just looking down at it, just, flabbergasted that this could happen. What are the chances? What are the odds? We're just going crazy. I go over to the other group and said, you'll never believe what happened. Ben rolled 3 ones. You guys look at me like, what the heck are you talking about? I go back to the table, and it put us in a bad spot. It was one of those experiences, one of those moments where, you just couldn't believe it happened.
Yep.
And it was just crazy. And I think you guys have all had experiences like that in games, right? It was just cool. And it was something we'll always go back to when we play that game and be like, hey, you remember that one time when Ben rolled 3 ones? Don't let Ben roll, So it was cool.
I think that happened while we were playing Ankh, and, we're sitting there playing and all of a sudden just yelling and from the kitchen table, right? And
if llama was the loudest that we were, that had to be the second loudest moment in the entire weekend.
It was cool. It was a fun experience and a fun moment, I thought. So that was my number 3.
See, and I remember, so I played Lorenzo Il Magnifico in the Fairplay Cabin Con. And that was the first time I'd played it, and I haven't played it since. But it was my turn to select, and Ben's turn to select, and I chose Ankh, and Ben chose Lorenzo, and that was exactly one of those instances that I talked about earlier, where it was like, oh man, I really want to play Lorenzo, but I really, really want to play Ankh. Like it was this situation, and then when you guys erupted and like shouts, and I was like, I do not remember Lorenzo being this exciting, but I really wish I was playing that game.
I mean, with a few exceptions, I felt that way with all the selections because the games that we took were all so good.
Agreed.
I mean, between the 6 of us, we have a pretty robust selection of games to play from, and they're all, for the most part, pretty awesome.
So that's my number 3, Lorenzo Il Magnifico.
My number 3, finally I actually get to talk about one that hasn't already been talked about, was our experience playing Pulsar. And I do not remember the number on this one. 2849, right?
Okay. You got it, yeah.
Pulsar 2849. And this is a Vladimir Suhi game. And we just reviewed Praga Kaput Regni in the last episode. And so I was really excited to play another Vladimir game and get this one to table, particularly because this is a game that Kevin had introduced us to, a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years at this point, and we hadn't played it since that time. And I specifically remember playing that we all had this experience that when it was the turn order and the dice selection phase, we were just like, this mechanic is awesome. And it was just like the same experience with Praga, where when we were figuring out the action wheel and we're like, this action wheel is awesome, the way that it works. Like it's one of those mechanics that Vladimir Suhi does that creates moments that are like just genius design application. And that whole selection option in Pulsar was just phenomenal. And so coming back to it, I was a little bit, I was worried that I may not be as impressed as I was the first time that we played it, but coming back to it, Kevin, Dan, and myself got to play, and it was great. I came in dead last, like by a good margin in this game, and it still happened to be one of my favorite experiences because of that discovery element, the type of mechanisms that were going on, and similar to Orleans, in getting a game played that I knew I had liked previously, and coming and getting it back to the table after so long, and being rewarded with the fact that this is still a game that I really enjoy and I want to play more of. And that was a really rewarding experience for me with this one.
Yeah, I love the dice drafting mechanic in that.
Oh, it's awesome.
It just blows me away. The decisions are so hard.
Yeah.
I really want that 6, but I'm going to have to move back on this turn order track or the engineering track. I really want those engineering cubes.
Can I afford that?
And being first is a huge benefit because you use all of the dice you draft first. And you can take those spots that other people are eyeing. So that whole decision-making process is just awesome in that game. That's by far my favorite part of the game.
But then you have the other turn orders that are also equally valuable in different ways. Like being able to go last means that I get to choose dice twice in a row,
Right.
which is really great.
Yep.
Or going in the middle means that I get to be safer in my selections. I get to see how people are using things and taking things, and I get to do stuff. So there was no position that wasn't valuable. So you didn't feel like terrible if you were in a different turn order, but you still feel like if I get the turn order that I'm looking for, I feel like really rewarded because I got there and I put the effort in and now I can get the things I want.
Yeah. Another thing I loved about that, I thought I had the win in the bag, right? I did too. I thought I'm killing it. There's no way Tyson or Dan are going to catch up, and you were a little bit further
Clearly,
behind.
that was still accurate.
But Dan, he went heavy on the transmitters, and he got those. He was able to get an extra red die quite a few times by connecting those together. He was getting production of engineering cubes and victory points. I didn't buy a single transmitter. I went heavy on the exploration. So I went flying my guy around that board, discovering new places, building the pulsars. That was my strategy, and trying to get those bonus points at every round. And two vastly different strategies, right? And we ended up being within like four points or something like that, right? He came back and was able to get some all three of those end game bonuses, scoring bonuses, and it just ended up being a really fun, cool, close game. It was awesome.
That's awesome. That was one that I was really sad that I missed out on. I was playing Dwellings of Eldervale at the time, which was an awesome play, but yeah, I was disappointed I missed out on Pulsar because I think that might have been the last game that we played as a group before COVID. If not, it was one of the last games.
Right. Ben taught us that one.
Yeah, and I mean, it was such an awesome play then. I was really looking forward to playing that one, and it just didn't happen. But the replayability, I remember with the different pulsars, I think that's what they're called, right?
Yeah.
Like the pyramid thing?
The pyramid thing that you put at the side of the board. Right. So
Technologies.
The technologies. We played different ones because I've always done the normal setup, the recommended setup. But this time I just did completely random, and that changes the game a lot.
Well, it adds a ton of replayability to it, right?
Huge amounts of replayability. Plus you're putting on the board itself, the areas that you discover is random every time. You don't quite know what you're going to discover.
And then your end game bonus selections there's a bunch of different options for those. So the amount of different experiences you're going to get out of this game is immense. And so I love that about it.
There's a lot to it. I think at this point it's probably, I love underwater cities as well, but as far as Suki games go, this could be my favorite at this point. I really enjoy Pulsar.
I think Underwater Cities drags a little like Terraforming Mars does, even with the expansion added in. But it's still an amazing game. So if I got the chance to play Pulsar again, I might agree with you.
And Praga's the one I've played the very most, and I like Praga, obviously. But I think with more plays of Pulsars, I don't see why it wouldn't be my absolute favorite. Like it seems like it's going to be right there for me.
The presentation too is something I really enjoy. It's got a round board. Like what games have a round board? Right. It looks unique. The
Paris.
table. Yeah. Oh, there you go. Paris. Yeah. Not a lot do, but when you see that, it's unique and it's got a cool table presence.
Trivial Pursuit. Some versions.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, we're pulling out all all the games.
The really, really, really high quality, best games we can play.
Top 5 games with circle boards, maybe?
No, that's terrible.
No, that's a bad idea. That's a bad idea.
So that was my number 3, Pulsar 2849.
All right. So my number 3 was I got to play Tyrants of the Underdark again. And Tyrants of the Underdark is a area control deck building game that I've now had the chance to play twice. And I had the same experience in both games. I pretty much went unchecked, claimed the whole southern part of the map of the board, just totally area controlled. This game, I got attacked even less than I did in the first game, which was a 4-player game.
How could this happen?
I don't
Were
know.
they not listening to the podcast?
Apparently Dan didn't listen
I think I
because
specifically said if I played Tyrants, I would not let that happen.
yeah, so I played with Dan and Mark while you guys were playing Paris, but I don't know. It was just a fun play. Like I felt like I was playing an even better game than I did the first game, but I ended up scoring a little less. I did win, but the part that I loved about the game, I had these card. I don't remember what card it was, but I had this card that would let me. So during the game, you assassinate other people's troops, right? And you add them to your kind of collection in front of you, and they're worth victory points at the end of the game. Well, hardly any of my guys got assassinated, but I had this card that would let me return 2 assassinated troops. I don't get the thematic of how that works, of bringing someone back to life. It would let me bring 2 assassinated troops back to the board and place them anywhere I wanted. And, I used it a couple times to bring back my own guys, but then none of my guys had been assassinated for the rest of the game. And so what I would do, I would take one of Mark's guys and one of Dan's guys and put them in a place where they were already competing or another location where there was nothing really going on, just to create more, instigate more conflict between the two of them while they duked it out. And I just kept building in more caverns. And I completely took over the southern part of the map. And I don't know, I love that game. It's, deck builders are some of my favorite games, right? But I love that one specifically because it really takes like maybe 5 or 10 minutes to explain. I mean, it's a quick teach if people have played deck builders before. It's really simple to pick up, but a lot of fun playing. And so that was my number 3, Tyrants of the Underdark.
So you've said this one could even be better in your mind than Dune Imperium, right?
Well, based on the plays that we had this weekend, it's definitely better. Our Dune Imperium play was really slow. It was a 5-player, or it was 4-player.
Yeah, it was dragging on. It really was.
It was a slow, painful play, but I still love Dune Imperium. I'd like to play them both more, but yeah, it's definitely up there neck and neck.
See, and I was so sad because, again, this was a situation in which I was picking and somebody else was picking, and it may have been you, Tyler, but I can't remember. But Tyrants got picked, and I was like, I wanted to play this again. This was one of the ones that I had hoped to get. And based off of your conversation here, it's still one that I really want to try now. And the more I hear about it, the more excited I am to try it.
Yeah, it was high on my list as well. We got to play a pretty good game.
We did.
While they were playing the other one, but yeah, it was high on my list. I definitely want to get it played.
So that was my number 3, Tyrants of the Underdark.
Number 2. All right, my number 2 has been talked about already, and that is Pulsar 2849. I'll leave it at that and turn it over to Tyson.
My number 2 also has been talked about already, and it's no coincidence, I don't think, that we're having more overlap on these lists than other lists we've done in the past, because these were some of the greatest moments for the weekend for, I think, everybody that were participating in it. So my number 2 is Llama, as already said.
All right, so my number 2 was not actually a game. However, it was an experience that happened, that has happened multiple times leading up to Cabin Con. And this happens frequently when we've played games in the past over the last couple of years with Tyson. There's certain moments when Tyson gets really excited about something that he sees in his next turn or an action that he perceives that he can take that will be an awesome move.
It clicks.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's like this light bulb that goes off in Tyson. And we all have those moments when we play games. But Tyson does something very specifically whenever these light bulb moments happen. And it is the double snap. And it often is accompanied with standing up or elevating his arms while he does it.
Occasionally there's a fist pump in there.
There is. And he gets really excited and it's awesome. But for the first time during board game weekend, I was like, wait a second. He always does that. And it's hilarious. So the rest of the weekend, anytime Tyson did it, we cheered. Kevin and I especially were cheering anytime there was a double snap.
And if I wasn't playing the game with Tyson, I'd be like, "Hey, was there a double snap?"
Yeah.
Or I heard a double snap.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was awesome.
The reason it happened, it was noticed because I do it every time I play a game, basically, because there's usually a moment that something does just click for me, and for me that light bulb goes off, and so it's just a natural instinct that I just
it's awesome. And
that's great.
Yeah,
that's great,
and we all have those light bulb moments, right? But
the reason I think it was we were playing so many games in such frequency that it was just occurring. I don't think it happened in the previous Cabin Con nearly as much or at all, and I think that was partially because that was earlier on in our
you were fairly new in our group, right?
So it's a little bit more reserved.
You didn't want to bring up the double snap,
right?
You know.
The double snap is reserved for the people I care about. How about that?
A tight knit group.
And we were already a little worried, like, this guy's pretty young. Is he going to fit in?
I know.
Right.
I'm totally teasing.
Yeah.
So that was my number 2, which was the double snap. And now anytime that it happens, I mean, we're just going to laugh. And
I am more self-conscious about it. Not in a bad way, but I'm more self-aware is a better way to say it. Not self-conscious.
But please don't curb your enthusiasm.
Oh, I don't intend to.
We enjoy the double snap, so this isn't a bad thing.
I don't intend to. It's more awareness. And so sometimes I'm like, I was about to do it. Should I just follow through or?
It's got to be spontaneous. It's got to flow, right?
Most of the time it has.
One time you did it, and I think I was sitting next to you, and the volume of your snap, my ears were ringing.
Yeah, it's like 75 decibels or something.
I know. It is pretty cool, but yeah, I like the double snap.
So that was my number 2, the double snap.
Number 1. All right, my number 1 is my play of Memoir 44 with Mark. So I've talked about Memoir 44 before on the podcast, and it is one of my favorite games. And this play just solidified that even more. So I brought up not all of my collection. I brought up a few different expansions, and one of those was the Winter Wars expansion. So I've got the Winter Desert board and all of the tiles for a winter map. I threw in some extra stuff in there as well. Maybe a little bit too much to throw in all at once, but it turned out working out pretty well. So we had winter rules, which limit some of your movement. We had reduced visibility, which means you have to be in close combat with people in order to do the most damage. We had mortars for the infantry, all kinds of stuff. There were exit points on the board that one person was trying just to get off the board as quick as possible, all these different rules. So we started playing. I got destroyed in the first round by Mark. And the way that Memoir usually works is you play one scenario and then you flip around and you play the same scenario, but on an opposite side. They're very asymmetrical. Usually one person has more of an advantage than another. Mark killed me, flipped around. Mark killed me again. He just totally destroyed me. I almost won the second one, but he ended up beating me. There was one moment where we had these tank destroyers. Tank destroyers are a little bit more vulnerable. They do a little bit more damage. He had these tank destroyers, got them on a road, and just mowed through like a bunch of my guys.
Unstoppable.
He was unstoppable. And then I took one of my infantry units that was hunkered down in a city. They made us a heroic move and went and took out his tank destroyers. And it was just cool to see the narrative of how this unfolded. It was just an awesome experience. Even though I lost horribly, it was one of the funnest experiences that I've had playing Memoir. It was awesome. I don't know if I'll ever beat Mark. He sees it differently. I don't know what it is. He's tactical. He rolls well, which is luck, right? But it seems like he always does. It was just cool. It was an experience that was just awesome.
Well, it's cool he got to play his number 1 game, right? And
for sure.
He was super excited. We've gone over to his house before and he's played Memoir 44 with Logan. Like, he loves that game. So it's awesome that you guys had such a good time playing.
Yeah, it was fun. So,
which is also one thing. I love when Mark loves a game because you can completely tell and like he gets into it. Like when we played our big game of Memoir 44 and he took the lead, like you could see that the cogs were turning and he was getting all of that click. But this version that you were talking about, the snow version, it's beautiful. Like that board is beautiful. I loved seeing it. And my experience with Memoir 44, I enjoyed it and I think it's a fantastic experience, but it's not one that like I felt I wanted to come back to. But I found myself after hearing you talk about it and seeing Mark's like experience with it, I wanted to play it more. We've got a bunch of pictures on our like Instagram of some of these, so like you can see that snowboard on it, and yeah, it looks good. And when I posted that picture, I was like, yeah, okay, maybe I want to try this again.
Yeah, it's awesome, and seeing all the pieces on there and all the terrain, it's just it's cool.
Well, when we played the Overlord game with Mark, I mean, I was on Mark's team, and I mean, he was dishing out the cards, and it was so obviously apparent what he wanted you to do with the cards. Like, I felt like I didn't even really have to play the game, right? I mean, he just set us up perfectly, and I think we won that game pretty handily. I mean, we had the high ground. We were the Germans, looking down on the beach, but
yeah. And it was again Kevin as our.
Hey, we talked about this before.
No, I'm just saying that it seems consistent that if it's you versus Mark,
it's not going to
come out well.
No,
so
really
we need somebody else to rise up to oppose Mark. I
know
that's what it sounds like.
Because it's not me. That's for sure. Another thing. It's just real quick. Mark knows the history around a lot of these battles already. So I pulled out this Winter Wars expansion. He's like, "Oh, it's the Ardennes Offensive or whatever it's called." I'm like, "Yeah,
I believe you're correct."
Duh. I knew that, right? Yeah. So that was kind of cool to hear him talking about that. So it was a lot of fun. So that's my number one was Memoir 44 and the Winter Wars expansion.
So my number one also involves Mark. And it is, again, Ankh, even though we talked about Ankh. It's the same gameplay of Ankh that we were talking about before. It was right when the merge was about to happen. So basically, the entire game I had been playing, and I had not unlocked a single Ankh power, which I had never played like that before. And I had found some way to get a ton of points. Like,
you also prevented me from ever getting to select a monument, right?
Trigger an event, right?
Trigger an event, yeah.
But yeah, so
going back to Mark.
Mark was sitting there. He was behind 6 points, and it was Tyler had caught up in points to me. So Tyler had made this surge of points as well that was just like huge, and he caught up and he did this great surge. And he gets his devotion piece on top of mine, meaning that the merge was now going to be me and Mark. And so I had been anticipating that I wasn't going to be a part of this merge the whole time. And then that happens and I'm like, oh, Mark, you've got to find a way to make the difference in these points. And he knew that already. Like he was planning this out and trying to find a way to make up the difference because he knew that in order to make the difference, that's going to determine the game essentially. And so he had strategically set it up so that he was involved in a number of conflicts. And I hadn't realized it at first. Like I was like, "There's no way he's not going to make up 6 points in this short amount of time to be able to get to us." And he puts himself in a number of conflicts to be able to do stuff. And then he gets to the final conflict. He got a few points from that, and he also had the Ankh power that allows you. Is it bountiful or worshipful? One of those that. While you're in the red zone, you get an extra devotion when you get devotion. So he started earning devotion and getting an extra one each time he did that. And he got to the last conflict. And in it, that was a conflict that had Tyler, myself, and Mark all in it. I had a couple of monuments, and I had exclusive rights to those monuments. And so I was going to score monument majority for those, and I was going to win the battle. So in this last conflict, Mark has a couple of guys in there, and he has a monument. And he goes ahead and he plays the build monument card so that he can score a few extra points. And it brought him right in there. He could have scored an extra point, but he didn't quite make it so that he could score that extra point because he had just gotten out of the red. And so he was 1 point behind. So essentially, when he and I merged, I only lost 1 point, which was... I had no expectation. I don't think, Tyler, you had any expectation.
Absolutely not. I mean, looking at it, we thought whoever was going to have to merge with him would be dropping 4 or 5 or 6 devotion points, right? And it was kind of, that's the closest merge that I've ever seen, where the two of us, Tyson and I, were on the same spot, and Mark ended up being just 1 behind us. And it was just... we've talked about it in the past, the merge and the excitement leading up to finding out who's going to merge and whether or not you want to merge. And, it was awesome.
It was phenomenal. And then the whole merge after that became like a great experience for me until we had planned it out. And we planned out a perfect way to beat Tyler.
Extensively over several dozen, a couple dozen minutes.
It was a long time, but we had planned out the perfect thing and had planned it out that it would work out and Tyler would be 1 point from winning and we would take the win. But we dropped the ball.
Well, I thought it was awesome in that play. So I had taken my last move action and I had set it up so that I was going to be taking part in a number of conflicts. And you guys got one more turn and you did the move and you moved out of a lot of those conflicts. So I ended up getting minimal points for dominating.
You still got points.
I still got points because I had the Ankh ability that I could pay followers after a battle and get a devotion from it, right? Which you can't do when you dominate. And so I missed out on all those points. I thought that was brilliant of you guys to do at the last minute. When Mark and I saw that and talked about it, we were like, that's it. That's what we got to do. And we had Satet as a guardian that allows you to go ahead and push a person. And I tried to protect against that, and I ended up totally borking my
because what ended up happening, guy. He put his one person in an area all by itself, and he had reinforced it so we couldn't push the person in front of it. So we went around and pushed him into the area that he was already in.
That's awesome.
Pushing him out. And so it was like this perfect strategy. But then when it came to the final conflict, we played the wrong card and Tyler ended up winning. Otherwise, we would have won by 1 point.
You guys are sitting there discussing what card you're going to play. And I was like, wait a second. They don't. If they realize they can play us. I don't remember what the cards were, but I was sitting there thinking, are they bluffing? Like, are they trying to throw me off?
And build Monument.
If you would have played Plague of Locusts, you would have won. You guys were talking about playing Build Monument, and I was like, are they trying to bluff right now? Like, if they play Plague of Locusts, they're going to win because I think I'm going to come up short, right? And they finally put their card down and they flipped it over, and they didn't play Plague of Locusts, and I was like, yes!
We played the wrong card, and we were like, are you kidding me?
Well, I mentioned, I was like,
it was you that you got in our head enough that it was like, that we were like, we started second guessing ourselves. And then we were like,
but then
we have to play this card. And then it ended up, we played Build Monument. And as soon as we revealed the card, we were like, that was a dumb move. Why did we do that? We had planned to play Plague of Locusts, which would have won it for us.
Well, and we went back after the fact and like, okay, if they would have played Plague of Locusts, sure enough, I would have come up 1 short, and then you guys would have won on the next conflict.
Ankh has always been, every gameplay I've played of it has been a phenomenal experience. I've merged now twice, and I've loved it. Like, I've loved the merge mechanic both times I've played it, and I understand why people don't like it, but they create some of the best experiences that I've had in this genre of gaming, and it's great.
It's still one of those games where I don't care if I win. Like, the overall experience is just awesome. It's so much fun to play. I've had one bad play, and that's when I forgot to use my god powers the whole game in a 2-player game. But other than that, I've loved every single play of Ankh.
Same. And that's why it was my number 1 gaming moment of our board game weekend.
All right, so it turns out that I actually have Ankh on my list twice, and I placed Ankh and Mark's comeback as my number one as well. So I'm not going to talk anymore about Ankh and that play because we covered it. We wanted to introduce a new feature, and it relates back to my number two, the double snap. And I think in the future, we're going to have a double snap segment where we talk about the best
light bulb moment.
The best light bulb moment from someone in any of our plays since, the last time we recorded an episode. And so in honor of Tyson's double snap, we are creating the double snap feature. For this episode, it definitely goes to Mark and his comeback in Ankh. It was just, like we said, incredible. None of us saw it happening, and it was just an amazing moment. So the double snap award goes to Mark. All right, so that was our top 5 moments.
Normally, to start off the episodes, we go through what we've been playing recently. We're going to do that here real quick and run down the games that we played in Cabin Con that we already haven't mentioned in our top 5. We played quite a few games. Some of them are fillers. We played a few rounds of cockroach poker, and Tyson finally got out of the losers column on that one.
Which there's only one loser per play.
Right.
I think Ben lost one and I lost one. But
I never lost. I, in fact, don't think in one of those games I didn't get a single pest.
Right. Yeah. Well,
and I think that game,
but I don't think that was anything to do with me.
That's easier to.
It was the size of the table
do with six players.
Yeah,
at the table,
I think we found that there's a sweet spot for that game.
4 or 5 is kind of where I would like to play that game.
Right. And if you're playing 5, you have to be within
close enough proximity
that you may not, on purpose not give a card to somebody, but if they're at the other side of the table, you're probably not going to give a card to that person. So,
Mark and I were completely opposite ends of the table from one another, and we never once gave, and we talked about this afterwards, that he and I just couldn't give it to each other because the game is about thinking quick and saying things quick. If I took too long to do something, then it kind of ruins it.
Yeah. And once somebody starts getting cards, everybody just piles on them.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So we played a few rounds of that. We also played a few rounds of Skull. Great games. Great game. I think we had a good time playing that. Love Letter Batman is another one we got to. For me, that is the best Love Letter. I haven't played all of the different variations, but I enjoy Love Letter Batman.
Oh, I love that version. I did have a rough play. There were a couple rounds where I had to discard Joker to avoid giving Kevin or Tyson 2 points, victory points, right? Because if they would have guessed him, they would get an extra victory point. So I was forced out of the rounds a couple times, and yeah, it was a rough play for me.
I will say that I like that version better than the base Love Letter, but I've played enough of the base Love Letter that I don't need to play Love Letter all that much more. But my favorite version is Lovecraft Letter, which
I haven't played that one.
I haven't played that one.
Variety to it.
I do like the Hobbit one too.
That one's fun. Yeah, with the Arkenstone. I do like that. So we got Love Letter Batman played. Silver and Gold was another one. This is actually the first time I'd played Silver and Gold. And I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a good filler game.
It's quick little flipping right.
Yep.
And
not too complex, but thinky enough to get you going. I like it. Yeah.
That was my second play of it, and I really liked that one.
Yeah, it's probably one that I'll end up getting. I think it's one my family would really like. Got another round of Spicy in. We talked about Spicy the last podcast. Last episode. That was fun as always.
My only disappointment there was we didn't do the 6, all the red cards. It was hard to get that in, but yeah.
Right. We'll still have to get that played with all of the red cards and the craziness that will ensue. Gorus Maximus. We got this one played. This is one of Tyson's games.
This was during Mark's 8 or 9 mile run up the mountain.
Right. He really missed out, didn't he?
He did. Or not.
So I don't know if you want to give a quick rundown of the type of game. It's
Gorus Maximus is a trick-taking game where the trump suit changes in process of a round. So there's ways that you can change the trump suit, and it's got a kind of Uno-ish vibe where you're matching numbers, and that'll change the trump suit, which can ensue all sorts of craziness and do different things.
And I don't know what it was up with this game in my brain, but I could not wrap my head around
Every turn was painful.
Like, what's Trump? What am I playing? I played. There were multiple times I played the exact wrong card that I should have played in that moment, and I got all the points.
You got the negative points.
I got the negative points, right? I just couldn't wrap my head around this, and it was just
it
was terrible.
was a ton of randomness, and it also was painful if you were not going last per trick.
I think that I've played this game a number of times. I've played it actually solo. I've played it with 8 players. I've played it with 5 players. I've played it at almost every player count. And the thing that I've found is it is group dependent, right?
and our group
failed.
Exactly.
Well, and this was probably the only play this weekend where I was kind of just like, I was sarcastic.
Yeah, we were,
and I took it a little too far to the point that I was being rude about the play, and I feel bad about that, so I apologize.
Right.
Yeah.
My only thing is I don't love bringing games to the table that people don't enjoy, and if that occurs, my preference is let's get it off the table if people aren't enjoying it. But if anybody's enjoying it, then absolutely let's keep playing. Yeah. That was kind of the thing, and my perception at one point was, nobody is enjoying this game whatsoever.
You suggested,
let's get it off the table.
You suggested ending it. But as much as Kevin hates house rules, it's been ingrained into me that once you start a game, you finish it. And as miserable as that play was, I was still having fun laughing and being sarcastic. I did not want to quit. I wanted it to end legitimately.
But it became fun towards the end.
It did.
Because we were kind of poking fun at the game itself.
And once everybody got on that page, it was okay to make fun of it.
It was actually was actually an enjoyable experience towards the end.
But kind of trying to keep track in your mind of what card can I play and what do I have to play right now. It just, for whatever reason, it was kind of painful, every decision. It does have some crazy cool art.
Oh, the production was great.
Yeah,
I love that.
Gold.
Wanchai Moria is the artist, and I love his art in a lot of different things.
It was the gold on the cards. The game looks awesome. It really does. So it's got that going for it.
And I guess we maybe just don't have the right group for it. Or
I know. Should we give it another shot?
If you'll play Tiny Towns again with me.
No, we don't need it. I mean, for another episode, we'll talk about Tiny Towns. So that's Gorus Maximus. And then we got one round of That's Pretty Clever in a roll and write game that was a lot of fun. So that's the fillers. And then we've got a few other ones we're going to talk about.
So one of the ones that we briefly mentioned was Dune Imperium. Mark dominated this game and won pretty handily in the end. It was a very slow play, but it was awesome to get to the table. And I'm still really excited about getting the expansion Rise of Ix soon, hopefully.
I did hear somebody recently talking about that, and it got me excited. They were very favorable towards it.
Awesome. Yeah.
So I also got to play something that I've been wanting to play for a little bit, and that's Korra, Rise of an Empire. It's a relatively new game from Yellow, and this was one that I hadn't played yet, and I really wanted to get played. And I actually got to play this twice, and I absolutely loved it. It's one that I want to play more and more of. It's got really beautiful production quality, but the gist of it is just this. It's going to be a game about civilization building. But think of it being like a civ builder in the terms that Tapestry is a civ builder, in that it's not really a civ builder. It's just kind of,
because it's not.
Yeah. It's just kind of that theme. Really what you're doing is you're running up tracks and trying to go up almost like a tech tree game. You're getting things up tracks and unlocking special abilities and doing things. There's die rolling and action selection. There's just a lot I really enjoy about this game, and the getting to play it twice in the same weekend was really awesome.
I didn't get to play it. Did you play it, Kevin?
I didn't play it. No.
No, we didn't even have to teach it a second time.
No, I'd be interested in playing this one for sure.
As interested as in playing Adrenaline?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, I did hear some negative things about Cora before the board game weekend, so I was okay not playing this one.
I
wasn't
too.
trying to avoid it, but it just worked out the way that I didn't play it.
And I had heard some negative things, so I was a little bit concerned about playing it, but I still wanted to get it played. And I was very pleased to have not been disappointed by it because I ended up having a great time with it.
We've already mentioned this, but we did get a few plays of Hansa Teutonica in.
Dry like sandpaper dry.
We have mentioned that it is a dry Euro. Cube pusher. A lot of fun, though, and a lot of good strategy. We mentioned some of the negatives in it already. But I enjoyed the plays. I think it's still one of my top games. I enjoy it a lot.
It's one of those games where I feel like I probably played it 7 or 8 times, and 7 of those times I haven't played optimally. So I feel like there's still more room for improvement for me, and I'd happily play it, even though it is as dry as sandpaper.
I was really glad to finally get to play it after having passed it up a number of times. It's very dry. Absolutely. I enjoyed my play, but it wasn't one that is like I'm seeking out to play again. It's one I absolutely, if it's brought to the table and somebody is like, let's play Hansa, I'll play it. But I don't know that it's one that I'm going to be like, hey, Kevin, can we play Hansa next week? Like, I like it.
So another one that we got to play was Dwellings of Elder Vale, and I played this with Mark and Ben, and I've played a few times, and they had played once. It's been a while, though, so it was a little bit of a rough play with not remembering some of the rules, but once again, I love this game. I can't wait to play it more. It's such an interesting and unique game, in my opinion, and I love that one. So that was Dwellings of Elder Vale.
Another one that I got to play was another one that was on my shelf of shame that I hadn't gotten to play yet. Paris from Game Brewer Games. It's a different game, and not in a bad way. Like, I did not expect the gameplay to unfold the way it did. Like, the decisions you have to make are different than any other type of board game I really think that I've played up to this point, and it's very unique. You've got a circular board. You're putting keys into different districts of Paris, trying to build different real estate locations. As you do that, you're going about, you can do 2 things. You can reveal a new location on your turn, or you must reveal a new location on your turn. And then you can either place a key or move a key to different locations. And it's a super simple game. That's the gist of the game, but it doesn't really click until you start going in and doing those things. And so I had to play this game twice to really get my head around it. And that second time, I really understood it and ended up liking it a lot more. Kevin, you got to play one time. The second time, what was your experience with it?
Yeah, I liked it. It looks awesome. You know, the circular board, like we've talked about, the Arc de Triomphe or whatever in the middle there, which is kind of like a Praga piece.
Yes.
Where it's completely unnecessary, but it looks awesome. It's like, I can't see behind that. It's kind of stupid, but it looks cool. It clicked for me maybe halfway through, and I was long, like, passed up by that time. But I liked it. It was, like you said, it has some different mechanisms in there that you don't really see in other games, which is why it takes a while to click. But then once it does, you're like, oh, this is kind of cool how this all works together. And you go around the outside getting, victory points and different ways to score. It's kind of cool how you can go anywhere on the outside of the board, right?
Yeah, it reminds me of like Rajas a little bit in that way.
Right.
In the river, that you can go anywhere on the river, but you can never go back.
Right. Yeah. Which makes for some interesting kind of cool decisions. Am I going to pass this up knowing I can't go back to it, even though it's a good spot, but this spot is a little bit better and I don't want somebody else to get it first, So it was cool. I liked it. It was a fun game. It's something I'd like to explore a little bit more and play a few more times. The 3D player screens it's another thing that looks awesome, but in practice, like Ben lost a piece in his player board, and then he found it
on
later,
like the last turn of the game,
which ended up being
in his player board.
Yeah, which ended up being exactly what he needed, right?
Right. It worked out just conveniently.
Just dropped out of his sleeve.
Oh no, where did this come from?
It didn't get him the win, but it still was like because of the way they're created. It's hard to see all the way into them at times, and it is necessary, I think, to hide your pieces. But it's got a roof on it as well. So that 3D piece has like a roof on it. So it's kind of hard to look into it.
I think it's one of those things where the companies are kind of just overthinking things a little bit. They're like overproducing things just slightly too much,
Yeah, keep it simple. Like Ink and Gold's the tents, right? Those are pretty simple.
Yeah, right.
3D feature that hides your gems that you've collected, and
maybe slightly better than that. But yeah,
okay.
I get what you're saying. Right.
I do think, though, regardless of whether or not you have those player tents, the presence, and regardless of if you have any of the 3D pieces, the presence alone of that game is still
great,
eye-catching.
Oh yeah, it looks awesome. Yeah, for sure.
It was a good game. I like it.
I want to play Paris. I think it'd be fun.
Yeah, another game we played was Beyond the Sun.
Oh, that was awesome.
This game is fantastic. I love it. I love the tech tree, the discovering new technologies. If you get there first, you have choice of the technologies that get discovered. It's just a cool game. It's a lot of fun. And then that board on the side that you're exploring and trying to settle new places. It's a cool game. It's a lot of fun.
I was glad that I got to play this with you and Dan, and it made me happy because this game is available on BGA. And the couple of times that we've tried to play on BGA since I've played it months ago on the table have been rough, and I didn't really I 75% knew kind of what was going on. So it was good to play it on the table again, aside from being a really fun experience. And I think Dan eked out the win by a couple of points. But now moving forward, we can play on BGA, and we already have played one game, and I know it again, right? So I was super happy to get that played.
I think that's my only regret about not playing in that game is because I got a BGA game of Beyond the Sun going on right now, and I still have no idea what I'm doing. I'm like,
click here,
I think
click
I
here.
can do this.
Okay.
That works. Yeah. So, but it is one that I want to get played.
All right, so another one that we played was Great Western Trail. There's mixed feelings about this game in our group. I think both Kevin and Tyson are not as excited about Great Western Trail as others.
The word I used after playing it was I hate the game. That may have been emotional in the moment, but I really did not enjoy it.
It was a little bit of a rough play. The setup, the starter tiles that were placed out on the board were randomized, and they did not lend well to both buying cattle or hiring workers, right? And so I think that was the game of Great Western Trail where I both bought the fewest cattle and hired the fewest workers than I've ever done before. But we did play with the expansion, which was that was my first time playing with the expansion. I still loved the game. It was rough, but I thought it was a great 4-player game. I had a blast playing it.
That was my second time playing Great Western Trail. My first experience, I had similar vibes, and so I was like, I need to give this a better chance. And that second experience, having the same vibes, I don't think I want to play this again. Like, I have no desire to. And I can totally see and agree with what you're saying, absolutely, that setup did not lend itself to having as good of an experience. But for whatever reason, this game, I'm not saying it's a bad design. In fact, I think it's really well designed, and I can absolutely understand why people love the game. But for me, I just have such a hard time seeing the strategies, seeing how the game works out. And so I just fall very behind. And anytime I have a game that has an actual track, not like a point track, but like a track of where you are in like the lead, so your train tracks, right? I was dead last for so long, and I couldn't figure out how to get my dumb train to move on that track. And the further behind I got, the harder it was because I couldn't hop anybody to be able to increase my progress. And when I finally figured out how to move on that track, I was like, this is not working for me. In fact, it's hurting me because I'm skipping over these routes. I'm getting negative points, and I had to go to Kansas City a number of times, and I was just like, this is
rough.
The issue is not the game. The issue is me and my own play styles and things like that. And it just doesn't fit me.
I was playing Memoir 44 at the time, and I think I won in that scenario because I'm not
what you selected, not necessarily against Mark.
I don't know.
I did well, right. I didn't win against Mark, but I would much rather.
Getting destroyed by Mark was so much better than having to play Great Western Trail. Is what you're saying?
I completely agree. Agree because that's not. I've played it a few times, and I would play it again for sure. I didn't absolutely hate my play, but it's not a game I'm going to seek out. Which goes against the popular vote, I think. It's very highly rated.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people love it. But it's not something
Which is exactly why I was like, I need to give this game another chance because it's almost unanimous that people like this game when they play it, and there must be something wrong with it.
I did love playing with the expansion, and I'm excited to play that more. I'm not sure I fully understood everything about the expansion, but I'm excited to get that played more. I do have Maracaibo on my shelf of shame, so I don't know how well it would be received if I brought that to game night or set that up at my game night. But
I did have the realization that if I don't like Great Western Trail, I'm probably not gonna like Maracaibo. But that doesn't mean I won't give that one a chance.
Yeah, I would play that one for sure. I mean, chances are I'm not going to like it because of the designer. I don't know how similar the games are, but absolutely I'd play it. I'd give it a chance. It may be my favorite game. Who knows?
But see, that's the thing. I like Alexander Pfister in his design of Isle of Skye. It's one of my favorite games. But that's a completely different weight level of game, so it's not the same type of experience. And I think he's a great designer. I just, for whatever reason, if it's Great Western Trail E, like Maracaibo is, I don't know that I'm going to love it.
So do you like it enough to get the second edition, or are you sticking with the first?
I'm glad you brought that up. The real tragedy with the second edition is that you lose that amazing cover with that cowboy right on the cover, like the
triplets.
I mean, it goes triplets.
I mean that cover rivals Hansa Teutonica.
I was going to say it's Hansa Teutonica 1, Great Western Trail 2, as far as who wins box cover.
Yeah.
Art,
so no, I'm probably not gonna get the second edition. I think there's two more that are coming out in that series along with the second edition, and I may get those depending on how different they are.
But does that mean you're going to have have mismatched boxes?
That hurts a little bit, actually.
A series?
Anyways, Great Western Trail. It's got mixed reviews in this group, but I love playing it, and it was a fun play despite the board setup being a little rough.
Another one that I got played was Fort from Leader Games, and I've played this game a few times now. It's just a fun, light deck building game, and I thought it was a really fun experience, and it's one that I'll continue to come back to. I think it's got a full package experience in that I like the art, I like the theme, and I think the gameplay is fun. It's not going to be a groundbreaking game, I don't think, for anybody, but it's a good experience, and it gives you a good time.
It's a fun play. I played it once with the family. We haven't gone back to it, but are you going to get the expansion? What is it?
The Cats and Dogs expansion?
Oh, I thought it was like clubhouses and outhouses or something.
Well, they just came out with the Cats and Dogs expansion.
Oh, you're right.
But I don't know if there's clubhouses and outhouses.
No, I was completely joking.
That sounds like a little bit older of a crowd than the kids building.
So are you going to get the expansion or?
I'm not going to seek the expansion out, I don't think, because I don't play it enough. But I think, and I don't think I need more to the game. I like the follow actions. I think there's enough variety in the game as is. I'm content with what I have for now.
And then the last one that we played that none of us were involved in is play of Terraforming Mars. So Dan brought this one, and I think Mark and Ben played, right?
Yep, and I think Mark won.
Mark won that one?
Yep.
Okay.
But I think we were all happy not to play it. I like Terraforming Mars,
Yeah.
but they can drag.
It can. It's a long game. You mentioned Underwater Cities, how that can be a long one as well. I think we'd mentioned this before. I prefer Underwater Cities over Terraforming Mars. But it's a good game. Yeah. It's just there's a few things about it that kind of the length and the attack cards.
This is another game like Great Western Trail where we don't like it nearly as much as the greater board gaming,
the number 3,
the hobby gaming community.
I like it, but I don't like. I've played it enough, and the length of play is really the big issue for me. Is that like I think I'd be interested in trying the Ares Expedition version of the game. There's a lot of other things I'd rather play. And in fact, this happened to be Hansa Teutonica, I believe, what we were playing. So the fact
No, it was Rajas at the Ganges.
Oh, I was thinking
we finished that.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, that's right.
That's right.
And then we went on to play Love Letter Batman.
Yeah.
And we played Spicy all in the time that they were
playing Terraforming Mars.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we picked right there.
Yeah, we did.
Agreed. So I think that wraps up what we've been playing lately, which means that let's move on to what we're excited about.
So one of the things that I'm really excited about is Imperial Steam. This is beautiful train rails game coming out soon, and I heard some other content creators talk about how awesome it was, and I cannot wait for this game. I pre-ordered it, just waiting for it to show up in stock. Can't wait to get this to the table. It looks beautiful. Looks really fun. I hope you guys end up liking it.
I'm super happy that you got a copy of it because after hearing other people talk about it, I had the same experience, and I was like, oh, this is one that I definitely would love to try. Again, probably not going to go out of my way, but then I heard that, Tyler's getting it, so yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Which I think we're starting to get better about, where only one of us buys a game, right?
Right. And that kind of leads into what I'm excited about, which is Ben backing Weather Machine. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I only have, you've mentioned this, Tyler, I think I only have one room for one Lacerda game.
Yeah, definitely. After playing On Mars, I don't have room for another one in my collection, at least right now.
Right. So I didn't really want to back it myself. But I'm so glad that Ben did. And that because you will get to play it as a group and get that experience. And, hopefully it's awesome. Well, but Ben has it and I don't have to get it, it's great. And we're doing better, like you said, of doing that.
And I was sitting there seriously considering backing this one, but same idea. I have Lisboa in my collection, and I'm not sure that I'm ready to add a second Lacerda in my collection, but I really was intrigued by Weather Machine. And so I was hovering over that back button, but then Ben's like, I just backed it. And I'm like, yes.
Well, I was excited about it too, because I think this came out, or the Kickstarter started after I declared, hey, I'm done buying games for the year, which some of my declarations in the past have not gone as well as planned. They've helped a little bit.
Your declarations are hilarious to me because you say, I am not going to buy any games for the rest of the year. This could be like March, right? And then you have 50 caveats to unless it's this one, unless it's this Kickstarter.
It's the caveats. It's the same with caveats for Tyson's, we're not playing his games because he didn't.
Yeah, but those are legitimate.
Right. I swear I'm not buying any more games. I do have like 15 Kickstarters are being fulfilled. And these games are on pre-order. I'll be getting these 30 games.
Oh, yeah, but miniature market cart hasn't quite filled up. So
it's funny
so I'm going to fill that up with this game.
I put some exclusions out there, like, hey, I'm not buying any games until Q3, except for Tapestry expansion, except for Quack's expansion, right? I throw in a few caveats.
Yeah, that's true.
Have you seen, there's a board game meme out there that has Dory from Finding Nemo on it, and it says, I'm not backing any more games, or I'm not buying any more games for the rest of the year. And then there's another picture of her that goes, oh, hey, look, a new game.
I haven't seen that one, but that's
the
awesome.
epitome
You could put Tyler's face
Exactly.
on that.
I've got
I feel like we should do that.
I am getting better, though. And part of that is...
Are you?
I am.
Okay.
I said I'm done buying games.
Yeah.
I had some credits. The Res Arcana expansion came out or for pre-order, so I ordered that. But that was not a negative cash flow, right?
That was hilarious because you had just declared like 30 minutes before not buying any more games for the rest of the year. Hey guys, I just bought this game.
Yeah, it was the next day.
Okay, yeah. It was the
I
next
think
day.
your wife listens to this podcast too, huh?
Well, yeah, she's
supportive of it.
She's
at least.
well aware of my spending habits.
Right.
No, but I think I can get through the end of the year without buying any more. And part of that is knowing that you guys, we're getting better about not buying games that someone else backed or already bought, right? At least a little bit better.
Yeah.
There are a few exceptions to that rule, but like some of those bigger games that we're all kind of excited about, I think we're doing really well with that. And I like that because it means that, if I want to play that game, I got to make sure that I'm there on game night when Tyler teaches it or whatever, you know.
Another one was the He-Man game.
By Simon.
Ben backed that one, which I'm so glad he did because it wasn't one I really wanted to dive into and spend $250 for the all-in pledge, you know.
Right. We just got our $250 Ankh pledges
Right.
and it's like, I can't turn around and back another one of
No,
these.
can't do it. But I really wanted to play it. And I mean, I watched He-Man as a kid and, you know, the nostalgia and hopefully the gameplay's awesome. I'm excited to dig into that one on a game night when Ben brings it.
Ben has the power now. So
Ben, he has the power.
It's good that you know that reference because that was a little before your time, Tyson.
You're so hilarious all the time, every day.
Hey, I haven't brought up your age for at least an episode and a half. So
No, it was earlier this episode.
Earlier this episode, in fact.
Yeah, it was earlier.
At least twice.
But you understand that reference to He-Man?
I have a fine selection of 80s, 90s, early cartoon history that I love Thundercats. Thundercats was one of my favorites.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We promise we won't make fun of your age.
I might have to speed
again.
up that response a little bit.
We'll cut it out.
What's something you're excited about, Tyson?
So one thing that I'm excited about is that we have decided as a board game group to do a local board game exchange for the holiday season. And I'm excited about this. I've never participated in like a Secret Santa kind of a board game exchange type of thing. I know BGG has them. There's a few Facebook groups out there that do them as well. And it's something I've wanted to participate, but I also would much rather, instead of giving it to like people I don't know, I'd like to give a gift to somebody I do know. So like I've got like ideas for each of you of like what I could get you. And so I'm super excited. We're going to draw names. We're going to figure that out and set that. So I'm excited to be able to do that. And I think it'll be fun.
Cool. Agreed. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
I'm also excited about that. I haven't put that much thought into it yet on what I'm going to get for people. I know what I'm getting Mark if I get Mark.
I know what I'm getting Mark as well.
I think we all know.
If Mark listens to this episode, he knows what he's getting.
No, we didn't say it, right?
No. Yeah, right.
So one of the other things I'm excited about was the announcement from Stonemaier Games was the arts and architecture expansion for Tapestry. I know that there's a love-hate response to Tapestry out there in the hobby board gaming community, but it's one of my favorite Stonemaier games, probably second to Scythe. I'd place it a little ahead of Viticulture, I think, but I'm excited about it because it adds a fifth track. It adds new cards, new monuments, and I believe new factions. It's new dice in the expansion as well. So, and what's really cool about it, it was, I believe, if I understand correctly, it was somebody in the community that came up with an expansion idea on BGG and posted that Jamie Stegmaier then reached out to eventually and teamed with to, finalize the expansion and then bring it out.
He's really good about doing that. He did that with Scythe, the airship one, and Wynn's Gambit, and he did it with Rise of Fenris. Those were the same situation.
I just think that's so cool, though.
He did it with My Little Scythe. There was somebody who designed that, and he partnered with them and then got it published.
It makes me want to come up with a roll and write game for one of my favorite games, Lost Ruins of Arnak, right? And then work with the publisher to get it released. No, that would be awesome.
You do love Lost Ruins of Arnak.
I think I might win the one that we're playing right now.
We're letting you win. So you play again. Are you having fun with the play?
I am having more fun with the play.
Nice.
Despite my first flip giving me a fear card as my reward. That was awesome.
Oh, you got an extra card and it was a fear card?
Yeah.
Well, it happens.
You could use it.
No. I went to one of the Guardian places. Is that what they're called? Guardians?
Sure.
Locations?
I think so. Yeah, there's Guardians at the location. So you go, but you don't get
No, I flipped it, and one of the rewards.
Oh, yeah. There's some
for that location.
If it's a ruby, sometimes it's.
I was like, "Are you kidding me? I'm starting out with another fear card. I hate this stupid random crap."
Here we go again, talking for 20 minutes about Arnak.
He loves it. That's what
He does. I heard that he.
No, but going back to Jamie Stegmaier, that's such a cool idea. He saw something that gained some traction related to Tapestry, and he ran with it, and now that dude's got a published expansion
with one of the most prolific designers and publishers in the hobby industry right now.
That's awesome.
Pretty cool. That is awesome.
Yeah.
So Lost Ruins of Arnak, roll and write, coming soon
from Tyler,
your biggest fan.
Okay, I am excited. This is not board game related.
That's okay.
But it's something that is.
Last time we talked about Dune, the movie, for
that's true. But there's a board game associated with that. There's board games associated with this as well, but I don't think they're very good. So I have been playing Halo, the video game, for the past 20 years. I actually got the original Xbox on opening night at 12 o'clock. At some mall in Salt Lake. I don't remember what the mall was. I needed to get a few games for my Xbox, so I picked this random game called Halo. I knew nothing about it, and started playing it and just fell in love with the game. It's just amazing. So recently, Halo came out with a new game called Halo Infinite. They surprise released the multiplayer of the game. It was supposed to come out on the 8th, but it came out a little bit early. And I've been playing that all week, and it's been awesome. So just been enjoying the heck out of it. Tyler and I have been playing online with some of our other buddies.
The first night,
it's just been, what's that?
How's your sleep been?
I am so tired right now. I could barely keep my eyes open. Yeah, I think last night.
Us and all the other 13-year-olds out there playing it.
I know. I'm like this 40-year-old. But I mean, it came out when we were in our early 20s, or I don't know.
No, I remember.
Tyson, were you born yet?
I came back. I had been living in Europe and came back, and a week and a half later, the original Xbox came out, and it was awesome.
Yeah, it was amazing.
I still remember the first time I was playing Halo, the campaign, in a dark room, and I got to the board where the flood come out, and I mean, that
freaked me out.
Yes. I was playing in the dark. It was like 2:00 in the morning, college student in my dorm, in our apartment or whatever. And I was just like yelling and like, whoa, this is awesome. Yep. And I was freaked out, and the music's all intense. And
yep. I still remember the music. I remember the first time that happened.
Yeah. That was one of the coolest, especially campaign game experiences I've ever had. But
and then the LAN parties.
yeah,
Oh,
The
that was
original
nice.
Xbox and Halo.
back when you could do LAN parties.
Back when you could do LAN parties, that was just
We got 8
amazing.
Xboxes at one of our LAN parties. Is like the most that we ever did, and it was phenomenal.
And playing through the campaign on Legendary
Yep.
with a buddy was like an amazing experience.
Well, and so many good memories associated with that game, right? The first night we played, it was brutal. I didn't know the maps. I didn't know my controls were a little off. But then we played again last night. I know you've been playing a little more than that, but last night was so much fun. I did not want to go to bed. It was awesome.
Yeah. So Halo Infinite, I think they have a 10-year plan for this. So
10-year plan.
I am really glad the game doesn't suck. So it's actually really pretty cool, and I've been having a ton of fun playing it. So not board game related, but I'm super excited about that.
So I have one more thing that I'm super excited about. It's
please,
the
go ahead.
time of. Oh, did you have something else? I don't see anything on the notes.
It's right there.
You already did. Oh, okay. I'll let
Tyson,
you
take
go.
it over.
Yeah, sorry. No way should I have gone right then.
How dare you? You should stay.
How dare you,
home.
sir?
I should stay home.
In fact, no way. Stay home. I'm excited for No Way Home. For the next Spider-Man. I said it's a Spider-Man movie.
Spider-Man. Yeah. Well,
The next Spider-Man
it can't be
movie.
worse than the Tobey Maguire versions.
But that's what's great about it is the Tobey Maguire versions are going to be a part of this one.
Oh, please don't
and
bring
I'm so
Tobey back.
excited about that.
Please
You
don't
didn't
bring
have
Tobey back.
Tobey in there though.
That doesn't mean he's not going to be in there.
Please
I don't know if he
Please
is.
don't bring Tobey
At
back.
least we got Doc Ock in there.
That's awesome.
We got Willem Dafoe, Green Goblin.
If you bring Andrew Garfield back, awesome. Tobey Maguire, please.
I
no.
want them
Come
both.
on, they could
I want
recreate
them
the
both.
upside down scene where they're,
the
smooching
dancing. Come on.
Terrible. That was the worst Spider-Man. That was another one of those movies I went to with friends in college, and me and one of my buddies were sitting there like laughing at how terrible the movie was. And then we finished it. It was the very first Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire, that came out, right? And we finished it, and everybody else in the group was like, "Oh, that was so awesome! Oh, that was incredible!" And we're like, "Did you guys watch the same movie?" That was
I didn't think it was bad.
Well, while you're trying
It
to
was
spoil
painful.
my fun, because
Sorry.
I'm excited about
excited
this
about it, too.
Spider-Man. I like Tom Holland as Spider-Man,
Yeah.
but I've always loved the character of Spider-Man. Like
Agreed.
Spider-Man of all the Marvel superheroes,
he's so
is
quippy.
my favorite superhero, and he is absolutely quippy, and I love that about him. He's very sarcastic and quick on the draw.
And I think Tom Holland does a really good job of pulling that off.
I agree. I
Yeah,
think
he
that
does
he's
great.
Tobey Maguire was. I think they went too geeky nerdy with him, like too like dorky. He's not even geeky nerdy. He's not like that smart in that version. And then Andrew Garfield was too cool, I think, of a guy. But
Andrew Garfield was way too cool.
Tom Holland is like, he makes that like that perfect intersection of those two, I think, and I'm really excited about it. Regardless, I'm excited to go see that movie because Spider-Man has been my favorite Marvel superhero forever. I've read comics, I've watched movies, I've played video games. He's always the character. You were talking about Halo and video games. There was what is the Marvel United? There was a game that came out a long time ago where you could play all of the Avengers and stuff like that. And I always played Spider-Man, and yeah, I love Spider-Man as a character. He's my favorite Marvel superhero. He's not my favorite superhero of all, but he's second favorite.
Who's your favorite, Tyson?
Superman.
He's invincible.
Yeah, we can have a
And he's
conversation
got way
about,
too many powers.
Yes, that's everybody's argument, and I have.
What about Henry Cavill's
And his
portrayal of
disguise.
Spider-Man or of Superman?
I
His
haven't seen
disguise
his
is
portrayals.
literally putting glasses
Superman.
on.
Yeah.
That's
If
a
you wanna
terrible
have-
disguise.
I will have a actual legitimate conversation about this. I could go on for I could write an essay on why Superman is the best supervillain. And here
Supervillain.
superhero. And here's the reason why in a nutshell, his
We're going off script a little bit
supervillain,
here. And it's
his-
partially my fault.
his arch nemesis,
your fault.
absolutely your fault. His arch nemesis is a mortal no superpowers, nothing that gives him super strength. Why does he lose to him all the time? That's just a rhetorical question.
Batman?
Lex Luthor.
Lex Luthor.
Come on. Oh my
Well, there was that one movie where they were fighting each other and it was really exciting, and then they realized that they both had moms named Martha. So they stopped fighting.
Is Tyler like any movie that's not Dune?
No.
I don't think so.
He doesn't like movies, apparently.
No.
We have this tradition of watching one of the greatest Christmas movies ever, and it is Krampus. And in general, I mean, I've already started listening to my Christmas playlist. That's fair game November 1st and on. My wife loves Halloween. That's her absolute favorite. And I give her until midnight on Halloween before I start busting out the Christmas music. But anyway, every year we have the tradition. We have friends over, and sometimes this happens on multiple nights and we get multiple viewings, but we watch Krampus. And that movie is hilarious. I mean, it is what it is. If you go and not expecting, not being too serious about it, like you'll have a great experience. And I would say it's somewhere a mix between Chevy Chase's Christmas Vacation and Gremlins, right? I mean, it's not really scary. It's hilarious. There are some amazing one-liners in there. It's got the guy from The Office. What's his name? Packer, which I hate that character on The Office. And he plays a jerk in this movie, Krampus, but he's hilarious. And the one-liners from him and the aunt, and I mean, just it's an awesome movie. And the first time I saw this was during an actual blizzard, which made the experience even better. Like I went to the theater with our friend Aaron and we watched it and we came out from the theater, and the whole movie is, there's a huge blizzard right before Krampus shows up, and we come out of the movie and like his truck was completely covered in snow and like the roads were terrible, and it just added to
the whole thing.
Yeah, it just added to the whole experience. And
it's board game related, right?
Is there a Krampus board game?
Well, I mean, it's German.
No. Adam Scott.
Oh yeah.
Of famous Cones of Dunshire.
Cones of Dunshire.
Come on, he's in it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, he is. And
I think it's funny. I like Krampus too. But the fact that Tyler loves Krampus and he's giving you crap for Spider-Man.
I know, right? It's like quality. Quality film there.
Oscar award winner over there, Krampus, but Spider-Man, that's terrible.
Man, why wasn't that
like
at
Spider-Man.
Sundance Film Festival?
I like Spider-Man. I never said I didn't like Spider-Man. Well, those are the things that we're excited about going forward. It's now time for the Longest Turn Award. And for the first time,
and probably last time,
it's not going to Kevin.
Right. There is a new winner of the Longest Turn. Well-deserved. I wasn't a part of this game, but I heard that it was well-deserved.
And at this point, I feel like anytime we've played Ankh since the last time we recorded our episodes, it's
somebody's getting it.
Yes.
Yeah. Whoever plays Ankh is getting it.
At this time,
somebody who plays it.
I mean, really, there's no doubt about it. The Longest Turn Award goes to Tyson and Mark while they discussed strategies, how to defeat me, even though they failed. Just going back and forth for a good 12, 13, maybe 15 minutes.
It was no 30 minutes.
It was not a 30-minute one like Kevin and I had in the first episode.
Yeah, but that was one of the first times we played. Sure, you're familiar with the game. So
you weren't merged.
Let me be the first to congratulate you.
Thank you. I do appreciate
on this prestigious
award.
It's
very prestigious.
We really thought the majority of them would go to you.
On the onset of creating the podcast.
Yeah, right.
I mean, we've found out that,
we were wrong.
That you've sped up your play recently.
Well, yeah, there's still plenty
to avoid being
right.
There's still plenty of episodes ahead of us for you to prove us right.
Right.
But yeah, congratulations, Tyson.
Yeah,
thank you.
And Mark, who makes, like we said, amazing
brisket.
So not only did you make great brisket, you're the owner of this prestigious award.
Yes.
Congrats.
Congratulations.
So I think that about wraps it up for us on this episode. To close it out, we would like to leave everybody with ways to get in touch with us and make sure that you're aware of where you can find us. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram. We post a number of pictures of games we play there. We talk about different games we're playing. We show pictures of our tables and other things that we are excited about. And you can find links to all of our other content through those social media outlets. Additionally, we would like to invite you to join our Board Game Geek Guild number 3947. And in fact, you won't be the only one to join the guild at this point
because we have a guild member who's not us.
Guild member. So thank you very much to
be number 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Please continue.
At some point, it'll be worth it for us to start posting content there.
Yeah, and we have intention to add more content there and increase the discussions that we'll have there. We're planning on putting out some lists and some other content.
I mean, it
requires people.
Yeah, it's a little embarrassing to put a poll out and then have like one response, right? So,
do you like this game? Yes 100% or no?
0.
Tyler, we know you like the game. You reviewed the game.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So we appreciate any reaching out to us. We'll make sure to reach out back and have conversations on Board Game Geek or our social media. But until next time, thanks for listening to the Longest Turn Board Gaming Podcast.
Good night, everybody. Do your mouth exercises. She sells by the seashore. Rubber baby buggy bumpers.
Buggy bumpers.
In this episode, we are going to talk about
ladies and gentlemen,
this is Cabin Con.
Let's get ready on board.
Oh my gosh, dude. I'll never not play Rajas with those because I think that
without them.
Without Argentina? Why?
Argentina?
It turned into the Swedish chef.
Hebraic.
Did
Am I having a stroke? What the hell?
Did it originate in Argentina?
Shut up, Canada.